Good afternoon, folks. Hope you're having a good day. I think we got a little blurry on our camera there. Weird lighting in here. Hope y'all are having a good day. I wanted to pop on because I haven't done a show in over a week, and there's with everything going on right now, there's a couple videos I wanted to show you guys, and then what we're gonna do is use this use the comments of this feed to give you guys the resources I'm using to research this Vautour family case right now. So we're going to start with a video, and then we'll talk about this afterwards. So obviously a lot of people are seeing what's going on in the sky, and a lot of people who should know better think this is Aurora Borealis. It is not. We're going to show you that right now. And then hopefully for some, this will open up some doors for people to do their own research into this, because it's very dangerous if people think this is a natural effect.
It lays the predicate and the foundation for the development of a weather satellite that will permit man to determine the world's cloud layer and ultimately to control the weather, and he who controls the weather will control the world.
There are many known ways to control the weather, and the best way to steer it seems to be with the NEXRAD Doppler Weather Radar Network.
The circular blue flashes seen in this video are frequency transmissions from the NEXRAD network of transmitter installations. The brighter the blue flash from a frequency transmission installation, the more pronounced and powerful the repelling effect on any air mass or storm in the vicinity will be. Where there are no blue flashes, there is no transmission, thus no repelling effect, thus no resistance for a migrating storm. Translation: a migrating storm will be hindered from moving toward frequency transmissions and will easily migrate in a direction with no transmissions. So again, I ask, was Hurricane Helene's path and behavior just an act of nature, or was it engineered?
Whatever happened during Hurricane Helene, our own government is actively killing the victims of the flooding.
We're in Nashville, and I saw 2 Air Force helicopter 60s, and I knew they were PJs just looking at them. And I went up to them, like, hey guys, like, what are y'all doing? And like, this is what you need to be doing. This is how I'm finding people. And they're like, we can't go. We're waiting on Title 10 orders. And I'm like, what? They can't get any authority. There's military helicopters all over here sitting on the ground, and they can't do nothing. Even my JSOC boys in Fayetteville, they can't get orders to come out here. It is just the most disgusting thing, and they're killing these people. And I don't know why they're doing it. I don't know what kind of conspiracy. I've heard so many things, whatever you want to come up with, but they are literally allowing these people to fucking die in the mountains right now because we can't get helicopters.
Not only is the government standing down, they are stopping others from helping. And there are even reports that the confiscated donations are being delivered to sanctuary cities.
So I'm here in Boone, North Carolina. I'm at the staging area. I volunteered myself and my canines to come up and do some search and rescue efforts. Obviously, you see all my equipment. So we've been told to just turn around and go the opposite direction, because what they're doing is they're confiscating everything. Like, they would confiscate all of my gear, my car, my dogs, like literally everything. There are some people who have been tracking these FEMA agents and what they do with these supplies after. And these are people that are directly associated with the group that I'm volunteering with. And essentially what they're doing is they're taking these supplies to sanctuary areas for illegal migrants and giving it all to them.
An unmarked black helicopter was caught on camera deliberately causing thousands of dollars of damage to a donation and support center. The government is no longer trying to hide. They are now killing us out in the open. And the radical Marxists working at FEMA are not really concerned with most of the people.
LGBTQIA people and people who have been disadvantaged already are struggling. They already have their own things to deal with. So you add a disaster on top of that. It's just compounding on itself.
You know, the shift that we're seeing right now is a shift in emergency management from utilitarian principles where everything is designed for the greatest good for the greatest amount of people to disaster equity.
We, the people, point out that they are killing us, and they complain that it's hurtful.
What kind of impact has this had on the recovery effort?
It has a tremendous impact on the comfort level of our own employees to be able to go out there, but it's also demoralizing.
Right after the government says they don't have enough money for the American people stricken by the floods, and that another storm is coming, they announce another $157 million to the people of Lebanon. Joe Biden makes another Freudian slip and says the government's response will be to increase the number and intensity of these extreme weather events.
Response is to increase the number and intensity of the extreme weather events and be where we're going to use all the resources available to the government to do it.
And many are now saying that this is exactly what they did with Milton, which is now expected to be catastrophic. Reporting for InfoWars, this is Greg Reese.
So just like what you're seeing at night, what you just saw with these storms and how they're being created, this is frequency manipulation. This is your 5G towers. This is your future unless we do something about it. So, you know, it's happening right in front of our eyes. They didn't say Red October for no reason. It's red. They try to tell you. People still don't want to listen. One of the biggest reasons I came on here today is I'm doing a lot of research this afternoon about this the Vautour family and their case with the land out there in Coogee. And I'm going to play something here that'll give everybody a rough understanding. This is by JJ Carrier. And I noticed he just added me to Facebook too. So I'm very much looking forward to speaking to him. He does podcasts on YouTube. He's got 3.2 thousand subscribers on there. And he gives a good rundown of everything. Obviously without going into too much detail because you'd be sitting there for a while. But this will give everybody a rough understanding of what exactly is going on out there. And then from there, I'm going to be adding all of my research links into the comments here today. And so if you see like X or Twitter links in the comments, that'll just direct you to a news page because obviously we cannot share news on Facebook. So what I do is I just make a post on X with the news article, and then I share the X link. So everything will be there for you to do your own research as well if you would like. We'll bring this up here and we'll play this for everybody. And that is Edmund Vautour and Courtney.
That's the 100-day mark of the Jackie Vautour Sacred Fire at the Kuchwakwak, where members of the Vautour family in tribute to Jackie's efforts to recognize the illegality and collusion regarding the expropriation of land there to make a national park done by Premier Louis Robichaud and Prime Minister Pierre Elliott Trudeau in the late 60s, early 70s. There was a very interesting article before the 100 days by a very good writer, Dallas McQuarrie, of the New Brunswick Media Co-op.org. Now, Co-op Media NB is basically an independent media in the province that does articles that the mainstream media or the corporate media doesn't want to touch. Now, McQuarrie published the article September 4th, 2024, and we're going to do a narration of the article, and all credit goes to nbmediacoop.org. Please check them out. Now, according to McQuarrie's article, despite concrete barriers and ditches put in place in early April 2023 by Parks Canada staff and the RCMP, members of the Jackie Vautour family have reestablished a family camp in Kuchwakwak National Park. The Vautour camp, near the mouth of Rankin Brook on Route 117 through the park, is ground zero in a land dispute spanning more than half a century. From 69 to 72, land for the park was expropriated from 228 families, affecting about 1,200 people. Now, McQuarrie did not mention, but 8 or 9 communities were disbanded to make the park in that 69 onward area. Now, according to McQuarrie, resentment over the way the expropriation was handled is evident to this day. both from those who remember the original eviction from their land and from their descendants. While others left the park, Jackie Vautour's family refused to move and has lived by the Rankin Brook ever since. When Jackie died in 2021, some of his children and grandchildren continued living there until the camp was taken down. It was bulldozed last year. Now, for many Acadians, Jackie is a hero remembered for his unyielding refusal to give up his family home. Courtney Vautour, Jackie's granddaughter, played a lead role in reestablishing the camp. Now, most of the people that were expelled were what Courtney mentions as mixed blood, we call Métis Acadien or Acadian Métis. But Courtney has been making some very important statements since then and during the week of the information session that they had at the site on Monday, October 7th. Now, according to Courtney, the number of people at the camp varies, with about a dozen or so usually around, she said. Food and other supplies are being provided by people in the area, usually Acadians and Métis, and often the descendants of the families whose land was taken during the creation of the park. Now, Vautour said the case of her ancestral land is still before the courts. She says the family has the original bill of sale for the land, and that document said Jackie Vautour's heirs would not be deprived of the land. Again, the sacred fire is now burning at the camp, and the Vautours intend to keep it going until there's a resolution to the conflict. Now, over the summer, numerous members of the family, both Jackie's kids and grandkids, including Courtney, were served with charges about making the sacred fire at the park. That's allegedly coming up in 2024. But Courtney has said in public statements on Facebook, they were just doing that to scare us. He said they have nobody thinks that the charges will ever stick. Vautour says she's also very angry about her aging father being physically assaulted at a camp this spring. My father was alone mowing the grass at a campsite out of respect for his father, Jackie, Vautour said. Park officials arrived and said he wasn't allowed to mow grass. When her father continued mowing, he tackled him to the ground. The incident has done nothing to help resolve the dispute. While the situation seems stable, 3 years after Jackie Vautour's death, Parks Canada decided to break the impasse. On April 9, 2023, in a move that took many by surprise, Parks Canada staff and RCP removed the Vautour home, some vehicles and sheds from the campsite, and bulldozed it. Over the next 48 hours, concrete barriers were put in place and ditches dug in hopes of blocking access to Vautour camp. On Canada Day, the Vautour family and supporters reestablished the now historic camp. Now, for Courtney, the land in question is ancestral land that has been in her family for generations. She wants to see the dispute resolved in court and not by the sudden deployment of government force. Today, more than 50 years later, after Kutchibouquak National Park was created, resentment remains of what many remember as a fundamentally unfair expropriation of land for the park. A mass is celebrated at Cemetery at Clairefontaine in the park each year to remember the now deceased residents who lost their land. The church at that site burned to the ground during the original expropriation process. To this day, some believe the church was deliberately burned to pressure people to move out of the area to make way for the park. Now, the NB Media Co-op called Kutchibouquak National Park on Friday, August 31st. A spokesperson returned a call on Tuesday, September 2nd, and said someone from Parks Canada would likely contact the writer. Now, Dallas McQuarrie, again, is an NB Media Co-op journalist living in the unceded Mi'kmaq territory of Signagatuk. Now, what Courtney is doing and what a lot of members of the Vautour are doing, they're telling the story handed down to them about the expropriation. I'm an Acadian Métis from the North Shore of New Brunswick. I don't have any direct relation to the Vautour family, but what Jackie did inspired non-status Indians across the province, including my home region of Gravel Hill, Lawrence, Jacket River, to seek out the reasons why Jackie Vautour was fucked over in all the families in regarding to the expropriation. Now, according to Louis Robichaud, who was an Acadian Métis, by the way, so he was a self-hater, they were doing that to create jobs in the region because there were jobs strapped. But here's the deal, ladies and gentlemen. There was people in all those families were buying local, they were buying gas, doing all type of things to benefit themselves. They were benefiting the economy. To determine their future, that you would all get work in the park and you don't know enough about your land, sounds kind of familiar, does it? Usually the white people would do that in the States and Canada and put our people on reservations. But this was an Acadian Métis, or as Charlie Van Horn call him a half-breed, whatever you want to call it. Courtney mentions the term mixed blood, which is true. We're a mixed ancestry, some Acadian, and in some cases, some Madawaska too. Some Indians on the northwest side, there's Madawaska blood in O'Brien as well. So you got to understand, ladies and gentlemen, it's a very simple solution. Recognize the error, compensate either monetarily or spiritually by apologizing, and we can move forward with the reconciliation. We, as Acadian Métis, did not create the situation. The minions of Louis Robichaud and Pierre Trudeau colluded to come on the land and kick all the people off. And like my old statement goes, the area that was expropriated is about the size of the Woodstock zone in Carleton County, which includes Jacksonville and Lower and Upper Woodstock. Can you imagine, ladies and gentlemen, in 1969, a bunch of people coming in to take over that land to make something called Carleton Park or Carleton North Park? Can you imagine the backlash? It's lucky that the people weren't armed. These were just simple folk like most rural non-status Indians are. They worked the land. They were seasonal workers, worked in the woods, fishermen. Good thing the Vautour family is not a Vautour family. I know quite a few of them over the years, but like push comes to shove, they were wrong. They don't want to apologize. And you got people like Courtney, that's generational trauma. That's a third generation. And her family as well, fourth, fifth generation of generational trauma created by a federal and provincial government that basically thought they knew better than everybody else. So Dallas did a good job on the article. I thank you, Dallas. Good to see a young journalist taking up some of the baton that we need. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, if anybody wants to reach me regarding any podcast or anything you want to do, you can contact me. My business number, 506-272-1880 in Canterbury, New Brunswick. I call it Gravel of South. Or on Hotmail at govcarrier, GOVCARRIER at hotmail.com. So this is dedicated to Courtney. She's been a strong fighter in this campaign. She made some very good comments on Monday in relation to the information session. Please check out Ensemble pour la Justice, Together for Justice, on Facebook. Jackie, son, and Mo, and other family members run the site. Again, Rocky Vautour as well, Maureen Vautour, some strong, Jackie's family is a very strong family. I'm honored to be able to do some publicity for them, good publicity. I'm doing this not for the glory of the Acadian Métis in the whole province, because you're an Aboriginal person. The only glory you have is respecting the elders. I never had the opportunity to meet Jackie, but I know Jackie's looking down and basically saying, in no shape or form, never give up. Never give up what you are. Because Jackie didn't give up, and those who supported Jackie, it's 55 years. If it takes another 40 years, we're going to be here. So it'd be better to apologize now before the eye of history. Basically, we're going to give you a black eye. The eye of history is on us, and we're the good people, and you're giving history a black eye. The Parks Canada, the RCMP. By the way, I would ask these people, Parks Canada and the RCMP that showed up, do you look in the mirror at night and you're arresting people that's trying to say your bosses did it wrong 55 years ago? Do you feel good about yourself? I like to have an open debate. At a public event, we'll just do a debate. You wouldn't last 5 seconds. It will go like this. You're a federal government official upholding an illegal act. So you're breaking the law. Not your law, but spiritual law, First Nation law. The first law of First Nations, we're united. You don't divide us just because you got a piece of paper. I don't need no status card. I'm a Métis. I know who I am. Okay? Do you know who you are? Those people that formed charges in July and intimidated people and harassed people. Do you feel good about what you did? Do you look in the mirror at night? I hope you cash your check. You lay on a bed of shame, because that's what I think you should be laying on. Shame on you. Like I said, I'm 59 years old, a journalist for 41 years, and 41 years I'm covering this. It's got to end one of these days. You want to take away the negativity of what you guys did, drop the charges for one, and apologize. Very simple. Have a good one, ladies and gentlemen. If anybody needs to give me a like, comment, subscribe, or share, please do so. Bye.
So that is an audio podcast by J.J. Carrier. And I just found him this week when I was looking into this, but I have a feeling we're going to be paying a lot more attention to him. He seems to know what he's talking about here. As you heard, he's been covering this for 41 years. So I'm very much going to try to speak to him directly. So what I'm going to be doing for the rest of the day is I'm going to be adding my links that I research into the comments here if you feel ever so inclined that you want to take it upon yourself to look into this further as well. I obviously encourage you to do so. On October 17th, they have court. We're going to be doing something. So Andrew and I are headed out there tonight. We'll be spending most of the day there tomorrow, maybe tomorrow night as well. So tomorrow at some point in the afternoon, I'll go live, and we'll have the details of the 17th fine-tuned. So whether you want to go to the land and support, or whether you want to go to the court and support, I'll have those details for you tomorrow. And that is for October 17th, which is, I'm sorry, I have the hiccups today, and now they're turning into burps. That is next Thursday. So I'll make sure that everybody gets that information tomorrow. And awesome. Tracy, I don't know what time or anything. Like I said, I'll iron out the details for tomorrow. And we'll go live at some point out there tomorrow afternoon. And yes, please do. Please do. I'll give you a call later today. Hope you all have a good day. I really appreciate all the support lately. I know it's easier to support now that you see us doing these exciting things. But I just ask that we continue to support and share the message out because it is working. We're getting a whole new I don't want to say clientele because we don't really sell anything, but in that manner, we're getting a whole new clientele of viewers that are First Nations, that are Métis, or that just simply take pride in what we're doing and trying to get the message out of people, protecting the land, spreading the message of the Two Row Wampum. And in closing here, I'm going to play a video one more time. And if you, to everybody that wants to know what we're trying to do here, well, this is what we're trying to do. The great law of peace. That is what we're trying to do. So we're going to show this video one more time. I showed it a few weeks back, but I think it's very suiting for right now. And I'll kill the live when we're done here, but enjoy.
Nawaha Scano. Our greeting from the Haudenosaunee, commonly known as the Iroquois Confederation. That's what the French call us. English call us Six Nations. And our proper name is Haudenosaunee, means people of the Longhouse. So, I want to thank you for being here and a common cause and listening to Kenny. And I should say that we should give Nina and Kenny a big hand for their work. It's been a while now with the pioneers, and we've had our problems with the pioneers, so to speak. But the native people of Turtle Island, that's just the name before Columbus got here. You know, he thought he was in India, and so all of a sudden, all of the native people in the Western Hemisphere became Indians. So every time I'm talking with a person from India, I have to apologize to them and say, you are the real Indians. And it's been like that. Some explorer by name of Amerigo Vespucci, coming on his sailing ship, happened to land here, and they named the whole continent after him. One time. It's amazing. So the whole subject of the native people of what we call Turtle Island, North, Central, and South America now, have never had their history told. They're afraid of it. It's so fierce. It's so bad. Millions of people here at the landfall of Columbus, millions. In a census that they took in 1900 of the native people in the USA, I'm not talking about Canada now, in the USA and North, 200 and some 50,000 people left from the original millions that were here. We had title to land. This was Turtle Island, and democracy was just rampant here. Everybody was free. We didn't have words. We didn't, democracy came over with our relatives from across the water, but we were free. I once talked with our elder clan mother, and I asked her, I said, when did we become Indians? I said, she says, and we're talking about wild Indians. I said, what's that? She says, in our language, we don't have a word for wild. There's no word for wild. In other words, here in Turtle Island, prior to the landfall, we had community. We had community that went all the way to the grass, all the way to little critters that you can't see. They were all part of our community. There was nothing wild here at all. We just had a huge, huge community of life. And so they called us, talking now specifically about the Haudenosaunee, they said, you people are communists. And we said, really? I thought we were Onondagas. No, community. That's what you have. And so when they were embarking on to become a country, they had to talk to our leaders at that time. I'm talking about 1775 now. And they knew that we were allies with the English. And they were rebels. They were going to have a rebellion here. But they knew that if we stood up and took arms with the English, there was no way they could have a rebellion at all. Just, the power was with the Six Nations at that time, 1775. And so they came to us, a delegation, asked for a meeting in what is now Albany, New York, on the issue. And they explained to us, this delegation explained to us why they were having this fight with their father. They said, this is a fight between father and son. and they talked about the mistreatment, and they talked about, and it's a long story, it's a long history that I know very few of you out there know about, because you don't write about the history. You know, they say history is written by the victors. And of course, our people use oral history. And it's a good process, because in the beginning of our Confederacy, we have the discussions of who said what to who. They're thinking now that we're as old as 15 or 1600 years that the Haudenosaunee has been here. They're doing a study right now in Cornell and University of Ithaca on the origins of the Haudenosaunee. And they're going way back, and they're basing that discussion on an event of nature when the earth covered the sun. And how they're doing that was in the history of our gathering, the great peacemaker gathering the 5 warring nations at that time, which were the Mohawks, the Oneidas, the Onondagas, the Cayugas, and the Senecas. They were fighting each other, and the men were at war, constantly fierce. And Peacemaker came at that time. And it's a long story, so I don't want to get into that part of it because we just don't have the time. But it's quite interesting in terms of what was established at the time when the Peacemaker finally gathered these 5 warring nations together. And the very reluctant Senecas said, no, we don't want to join your. And he said, my word, he said, is very, very strong, very truthful. He said, and tomorrow, he said, I'm going to cover the sun. And the next day, there was an eclipse. And the Senecas were very impressed. And they said, you must be who you say you are. And they joined the Confederation. And so they're studying at this point in Cornell and Ithaca College, they're studying that eclipse at that time, and they think it's 1600 years ago. Point being is we've been here a long time, we're old. In 500 years that you've been here, boy, you caused a lot of damage. It's amazing. It's amazing. And it's not over. As Kenny was very explicit about, it's not over. But to put a perspective on things, human beings are like fleas on a dog. You're quibbling amongst yourself, you're squabbling amongst yourself, and the dog is getting ready to shake. And so there's nothing really special about the human beings as another species here except our intellect. We have our intellect, and we can make decisions. And these decisions can be made individually. So every morning when all of us wake up, although, you know, with your electricity, you don't have night anymore. 24 hours a day, the lights are on. But anyway, when you wake up, you have an option to either be the best in the world or the worst. It's an option. And there's over 8 billion of those options right now. And so the gathering here, you've chosen an option for peace. And peace is the issue. And that's what the great peacemaker said. That's why we call him the peacemaker. He has a name, but we don't use it because at some point we'll call him. And he instructed us, I want to hear when you call, so don't put my name out there. And so we've had several instances in our history of the Haudenosaunee where we've been shown future and instructions. And the last one was 1799, when a Seneca chief, Dayo, called him Handsome Lake, was recovering from drinking because the whole nations were drinking. 1799. And he received a message from spiritual beings, and I don't want to get into that either. That's a long story. Anyway, we were instructed and given a foresight to what was coming. And from our understanding and observations, everything is right on time. And it's not good. It's not good, and you have to know that. However, it's also not over, and you have to know that. The fight is on, and this gathering here is about the future, and it's about peace, and it's about the human element on this earth at this time. The earth is quite old and has seen species after species come and go. And we haven't been here that long as a species, not very long at all. And of course, you can see we're pushing the envelope. And if we're so brilliant and we're so smart, how come we're facing this crisis then? Think about that. And as Kenny was pointing out, corporations have more or less taken over the world. And they're all about profit. And this country has, taken that turn, like when 1775, when the delegates of the Continental Congress coming to the Six Nation Council and saying, we want to make a union like yours. They said in 1744 at Lancaster, there was a big meeting, and the Haudenosaunee was presiding, as we presided on most all the meetings. And all the meetings that were conducted at that time were conducted in our form of how we ran things. I'm talking about the influence now of the Native people on your history that you don't know anything about. But those were very formative years, those 300-400 years of interaction before 1775. And so they came to us and they said, in 1744 in Lancaster, you advised us to make a union like yours. We are now taking your advice. We're going to make a union like yours. 1775. How many know that? Raise your hand. See, just a few people. So the question should arise in your mind, how come I don't know that? And you've been denied a history. American public is ignorant. They're ignorant about the native people who were here. And all of that history and all of our civilizations. You know, when the Nina and the Pinta and the Santa Maria arrived here not that long ago, down in what is now South America, they were performing lobotomies. Did you know that? They had the science. No, I didn't know that. You denied that. So what did come over? And that was the Christian doctrine. That Christian doctrine of discovery they talked about. Came over, domination, dominion. Well, I think we're all gathered here to say, it ain't over yet. We're here. And my son and Rex are here on their own. I'm not representing the Haudenosaunee in this discussion, although that's been my primary work around the world, is to carry the message. And the message is peace. And the Confederacy, when the peacemaker first put us all together, and he finally got us all assembled, and they said it took years and years for him to do that. He finally got us together on the shores of Onondaga Lake, which is not Onondaga Lake, but in our language, it's where the leaves touch the water. That was the name of it. But that's where our nation was situated, and so it's become Onondaga Lake in upstate New York. And now we're greatly diminished. The Haudenosaunee is greatly diminished, but we're still here. And we're independent. We don't vote because we are our own nation. And we're probably one of the last remaining traditional governments in North Central America, South America, still in charge of governance, and also the principles for which you operate. So the principle, the foundational principle that is operational with the Confederation is peace. Peace. That's our number one law, rule. But that's not what the corporations are doing today. And so when the peacemaker gathered us all at Onondaga Lake at that time, he said, I am planting here a great tree of peace, which is the great white pine. And he said, there are 4 roots going in the 4 cardinal directions of the earth. And people can follow those roots back to source here and come under the great law of peace. We're still here. And it's not over. And peace is the only answer to the situation that we face today. And it was the answer, and it was the instruction in the beginning. And so we're facing a crucial time in 2 senses, and you've covered that both in the titles of your event here. You're talking about democracy, and you're talking about the earth, Miss Melting. In the year 2000, the traditional circle of Indian elders and youth were meeting in Michigan. We were up there at a meeting, And these meetings were about instructing other indigenous nations to get back to their roots and to get away from what the brother from across the water forced on our nations, which was an elective system. We don't have an elective system. Our system, and Onondaga, I've been very specific to the Six Nations, the Haudenosaunee, our system is based on peace, and the process and governance of that system is shared equally between the men and the women. And we have a matrilineal system. Now, you understand what that means? $1500, $1600, $1700 years ago, we had a matrilineal system, and it's still there. I have, I'm a wolf. That's my clan. And our system has divided our families so that we have discussions. We have two sides. And on our side, the wolf, turtle, beaver, snipe. That's 4 families on this side. Bear, deer, eagle, and the hawk on that side. And then we take some of each and they put it over here in the middle, and they govern, and then the people sit here. So we have a full circle. And anybody in that circle can speak. And I've seen the time when a 10-year-old girl addressed the council, because she had that right, and she used it. And she addressed the council. And she laid forward her concerns, which were very legitimate. And we acted upon that. So what I'm talking about is a very democratic process. And we didn't have the word democracy either. Then it was just, as a clan mother said, the closest I can come to our way of life in the English word is free. We're free. And that was rampant in North, Central, and South America prior to Columbus. People were free, independent. And I'll tell you, you didn't go around and order anybody anything. You respectfully spoke to people because they were independent and they make up their own mind. So what you have today, and you call democracy, is far, far away from that. But what you have today gathered here is the right to stand as a community, as a common cause for survival. And what the peacemaker said to us at the time, so long ago, he said, now that you are gathered here, I'm going to plant this great tree of peace. And these 4 white roots go in the 4 cardinal directions. He says, and I'm uprooting this tree right here. And I want you men to throw your weapons of war in this hole and let the undercurrents carry them away. Buried the weapons of war a long time ago. And this is a history that you have no idea about, because it's contrary to corporate power. It's contrary. And I asked a question the other day. I said, this discussion between Republicans and Democrats, what is the issue? Why is there Republicans and Democrats? And who are the Republicans and who are the Democrats? You know, it's a general question. And I talked to several people who are kind of in the area, and they said, well, basically, the Democrats are for people, common people, and Republicans are for more organized governance of the state. And so there's this infrastructure that they couldn't settle at the time. So you have Democrats and Republicans still on this issue, which is still in discussion, and which I consider probably forever. It's a constant, because every generation has to determine for itself what its future will be. So as you sit out there, many young people here now, and I'm so glad to see you here, because we're going to need your vitality, we're going to need your strength, and you're going to need your support for the more thoughtful side of ours, how we proceed and how we deal with this eminent discussion on survival of the human beings as a species. That's where we're at. Survival as a species. And there's nothing special about us except that we do have an intellect and we got options, so that's where we are. So nature, as was spoken about, nature's the boss. It's always been the boss and will ever be the boss. Yeah. So there's a lot that I haven't added here. You know, my 94 years on this earth here has it's given me a perspective that most people don't have. You know, I remember when there was only one car on Onondaga Nation. Everybody was walking or horse and buggy. I could harness a horse, harness plow. And now we got vehicles flying to the moon and beyond, way beyond. So in a very short time, 70 years, we've gone from 2.5 billion people in the world to over 8 in my lifetime. Now, if everything was equitable, I would manage. But as you know, it's not equitable. So we have a great many poor people and very few wealthy people. You know, I've heard their complaints. You know, they do have a complaint. And that complaint is they have to wait in line for a yacht. Imagine. And you got women out there with 3 kids working 2 jobs. They got to wait in line for a yacht. So that's the inequity, all right? And that's the reality. But the biggest reality, like I say, is we're like fleas on a dog. And the dog's getting ready to shake. And all of your discussions here amount to nothing. Unless you unify and unite and stand for the future in the 7 generations. 7 generations. Those were our instructions, and they're valid, extremely valid today. And just my last words now before Rex drags me off the field here. Ever guys hear about Yogi Berra, the catcher for New York? You know, he says funny things. But there's a lot of truth to something he said, you know. He would say funny things like, he says, well, when you come to the fork in the road, take it. And he said, the thing that I listen to him now, what he said, he says, well, you know, it ain't over till it's over. And it ain't over. So that's where we are right now.